I remember the exact moment the whisper started. The soft rustle of silk gowns, the faint clinking of champagne glasses, and then those sharp little laughs that cut through the music like broken glass. I stood at the entrance of the wedding hall, my heels sinking slightly into the plush ivory carpet, pretending not to notice how every head turned. My dress, a deep emerald satin, hugged my frame like armor. My hair, polished waves cascading down my shoulders, was styled with more care than I'd admit. Outwardly, I looked every bit the composed woman I wanted them to see. But inside, my chest felt tight, like a fist had wrapped around my lungs. Alone again, I heard one of them whisper, her voice dripping with pity masked as humor. "Couldn't even bring a date," another chimed in. Their words weren't new. I'd heard versions of them all my life. Yet tonight, under the shimmer of chandeliers and the eyes of people who thought they knew me, they landed differently. I forced my lips into a practiced smile, lifted my chin, and moved forward. I wasn't here to prove anything. At least, that's what I told myself. And then it happened. The music softened, like the universe itself was holding its breath. Across the crowded room, a man, tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in a midnight black tuxedo that looked tailored by the gods, rose from his seat. His eyes locked onto mine with unshakable intent. Gasps spread as he walked. "No," commanded the room. And when he reached me, he did something no one expected. He bowed. The sight of him bowing pulled me back to a time I thought I'd buried, the girl I used to be before I learned how to stand on my own. I was 21 when the mocking started to cut deepest. My cousin's wedding, in a small-town church in Ohio, was the first time I felt the sting of being treated as an outsider by my own family. I remember sitting in the pews, my pale blue dress wrinkling beneath my trembling hands, listening to the whispers ripple through the crowd. "She's still single. Dropped out of her internship, didn't she? Poor thing. No direction, no boyfriend, no plan." Each word struck like a dart, and I sat frozen, trying to hold back the tears burning in my eyes. My mother didn't defend me. She simply avoided looking at me. My older sister smirked, the kind that says you'll never catch up to me. That night, I found myself in the dimly lit kitchen of my grandmother's house. She was the only one who had ever seen through my quiet facade. She poured me chamomile tea, her wrinkled hands steady as mine shook. "They don't see you," she whispered, her voice soft but firm. "But I do. You have something they'll never understand." She pressed a small silver bracelet into my palm, its charm shaped like a tiny compass. "This is yours now. When you feel lost, remember, you already carry your direction inside you. You don't need them to point the way." I held that bracelet so tightly, it left marks in my skin. That was the night I decided I couldn't keep living in their shadow. I packed my bags a week later. No farewell party, no supportive send-off. Just me, a bus ticket, and a promise to myself that I'd never again let their laughter define my worth. The road ahead was terrifying, but it was mine. For the first time, I wasn't running from loneliness. I was walking toward independence. Starting over was harder than I ever imagined. I arrived in New York City with 2 suitcases, $500, and the bracelet my grandmother had pressed into my hand. The city didn't welcome me with open arms. It devoured me. My first apartment was a shoebox above a noisy laundromat in Queens, where the radiator hissed through the night and the window let in more cold than light. I took whatever jobs I could find, waiting tables, folding clothes, answering phones. By day I smiled through exhaustion. By night I studied. I devoured books on business, marketing, finance, teaching myself what others had learned in classrooms I could never afford. Still, there were nights I sat on my mattress on the floor, head in my hands, asking myself if my family had been right. Maybe I was destined to fail. Maybe I wasn't strong enough. The bracelet would dig into my wrist as if reminding me, you carry your direction inside you. Then came the turning point. At the cafe where I worked, a woman in her 50s named Margaret became a regular. Sharp suits, calm confidence, eyes that studied me like she could see beneath my practiced smile. One evening, after watching me sketch ideas in a battered notebook during my break, She asked, "Whose business plan is that?" Embarrassed, I tried to hide the pages. "Just ideas," I muttered. She leaned in, her voice low but steady. "Don't hide brilliance. Show me." That conversation changed my life. Margaret was a retired venture capitalist who believed in mentoring women others dismissed. She tore through my scribbles with the precision of a surgeon, showing me how to build structure out of chaos. She didn't hand me success. She demanded I earn it. For months, I balanced my survival jobs with building a small online consulting service. At first, no one cared. I sent hundreds of cold emails, most unanswered. But then, one client took a chance. I worked for pennies, pouring in hours no sane person would, and when the results spoke louder than my inexperience, word began to spread. My first profitable month felt surreal. I bought a Real bed. The second profitable month, I quit one of my waitressing jobs. By the end of the first year, I was running a business that finally had traction. But I didn't post about it online. I didn't call home bragging about clients in California or contracts worth more than my entire savings. I stayed quiet. To my family, I was still the girl trying to make it. Let them believe it. My silence was my shield. By the third year, I'd signed my first six-figure deal. By the fifth, I had an office with a view of the Hudson, employees who believed in my vision, and a list of clients whose names carried weight. I had become the woman, they said, I'd never be. And still, every morning, I clasped that silver compass bracelet around my wrist. A reminder, I hadn't gotten here to prove them wrong. I had gotten here to prove myself right. The wedding hall shimmered with chandeliers, their crystal drops scattering light like diamonds across the polished floor. Laughter bubbled from tables draped in ivory linens, glasses of champagne catching the glow. It was the kind of scene my family always imagined themselves belonging to, elegant, pristine, exclusive. And here I was, walking in alone. I could feel the smirks before I even saw them. My sister, Madison, in her designer gown, leaned toward our cousin as if she couldn't resist a performance. Of course she came by herself. Some things never change. The words floated in the air, sharp enough for the nearby tables to hear. A few people laughed softly, as though mocking me was some unspoken tradition. I smiled tightly and adjusted the strap of my emerald dress, though inside, the same old ache pricked my chest. But unlike before, I wasn't here as the timid girl they remembered. I was here as the woman I had built, brick by painful brick. Then the atmosphere shifted. Across the room, the man in the midnight tuxedo rose to his feet. His presence silenced conversations in a ripple, like waves retreating from the shore. He crossed the floor with deliberate strides, every eye following. When he reached me, he bowed, low, graceful, as though I were royalty. Gasps erupted. Madison's wine glass nearly slipped from her hand. I held his gaze, the weight of 100 eyes pressing against me. "What are you doing?" I whispered, half stunned. He straightened, offering a small smile. "Acknowledging power when I see it." The whispers swelled. "Who is he? Why her?" Someone murmured the word billionaire, and suddenly the room seemed to close in, curiosity thick in the air. I let the silence stretch, savoring the shift in energy. Finally, I turned, letting my voice carry. "You all wondered why I came alone. Perhaps because I've never needed anyone to walk beside me to prove my worth." Their faces shifted, confusion, disbelief, denial. My mother's eyes widened, as if she were seeing me for the first time. Madison's smirk faltered. I continued, each word measured, deliberate. "For years, you laughed at me, called me directionless, pitted me. But while you were busy writing my story, I was building one of my own. The billionaire, David Harrington, though they clearly recognized him, stood slightly behind me, a silent shield. I didn't need his presence to validate me, but the irony was delicious. I gestured toward him. "You all know him. What you don't know is that 3 years ago, he became my client. One of many. The contracts I've signed, the businesses I've helped build, the people I've hired, they're the proof of the woman you never believed in." The hall fell into stunned silence. Forks paused midair. A waiter nearly dropped a tray. Finally, Madison found her voice. "You're lying. This is some act." I tilted my head, a slow smile curving my lips. "Is it? Then perhaps you should ask why he's standing here. Or better yet, why I now own the consulting firm your husband tried to partner with last year." Her face drained of color. A murmur spread across the room like fire. I stepped forward, letting the click of my heels echo against the marble floor. "I built my empire quietly, while you dismissed me. I didn't need your approval then, and I don't now. But make no mistake, every achievement you overlooked is now standing in front of you." I clasped the silver bracelet on my wrist, letting its charm catch the chandelier's light. My grandmother's words pulsed in my memory. "You already carry your direction inside you." And now, for the first time, the entire room could see exactly where that direction had led me. The silence in the wedding hall was thick, almost suffocating. Faces that once looked down on me now struggled to meet my eyes. It was a power I had never sought, yet one I'd earned. And I wasn't about to squander it. I let my gaze sweep the room slowly, deliberately. "You mocked me for being alone," I began, my voice calm but edged with steel. "But what you never understood is that solitude gave me the space to grow. And now, if you want a place in my life, things will have to change." My mother shifted in her seat, lips parted as though she wanted to object. Madison crossed her arms, still clinging to defiance, but her trembling hands betrayed her. I turned to Madison first. "All my life, you measured yourself against me just to feel taller. If you want any relationship with me moving forward, that ends today. No more comparisons. No more gossip. If you want to keep me in your life, you'll focus on building your own instead of tearing mine down." Her jaw clenched, but she said nothing. Then my eyes found my mother's. My chest tightened, but I steadied myself. "You looked away when they mocked me. You stayed silent when I needed you most. If you want me as your daughter now, silence is no longer acceptable. You will defend me as fiercely as you once ignored me. That's the only way we move forward." Her eyes filled with tears, and she nodded faintly. I didn't stop there. My gaze swept across the cousins, the aunts, the onlookers who had always treated me as a punchline. "You don't have to like me. You don't even have to understand me. But if you want access to me, to my time, my presence, you will respect me. No exceptions." The air seemed to hum with tension, as though the chandeliers themselves were listening. Finally, I softened, letting compassion thread through my voice. "I'm not here to humiliate you. I'm not here to collect apologies or flaunt success. I'm here because I've outgrown the shadows you kept me in. If you want to walk beside me now, it will be as equals, not as people who mock what they don't understand." For a moment, no one moved. Then David, still standing at my side, silent until now, spoke, his deep voice carrying through the hall. "I've worked with many powerful women in my life, but I've rarely met one who holds her ground with such grace. If you can't see what stands before you, you don't deserve to." Gasps followed. His words weren't for them, though they were for me. I looked back at my family. "The choice is yours. Grow with me or step aside. Either way, I'll keep moving forward." And with that, the balance of power shifted, not in the petty, vengeful way I once dreamed of, but in the steady, undeniable truth of a woman who finally knew her worth. In the weeks that followed, I saw small shifts, fragile at first, like seedlings pushing through cracked concrete. My mother began calling, not to pry or criticize, but to listen. Her voice trembled the first time she said, "I'm proud of you." I knew it cost her something to admit it, and though it didn't erase the years of silence, it was a start. Madison, predictably, resisted the longest. But even she softened. One afternoon, she reached out with an awkward text. "How did you know what you wanted? I feel like I'm living someone else's life." For the first time, she wasn't mocking me. She was asking for guidance. I didn't gloat. I simply replied, "You find it by choosing yourself, even when it terrifies you." And slowly, the old dynamic began to unravel. The sharp edges of gossip dulled, replaced by tentative respect. Not all relationships heal, but I realized they didn't have to. My worth had never depended on their acceptance. Late one evening, I sat by the window of my Manhattan apartment, city lights glittering like stars fallen to earth. I turned the silver bracelet on my wrist, the little compass charm catching the glow. My grandmother's voice echoed in my memory. You already carry your direction inside you. She'd been right. I didn't need a room full of approval or a partner on my arm to feel complete. I had built a life on my own terms through pain, grit, and resilience. And when the moment came, the world had been forced to see me for who I truly was. I smiled to myself, resting my chin on my hand. The loneliness that once felt like a curse had become my greatest ally, carving out space for the woman I was always meant to be. And so, when I think back to that wedding, the laughter, the whispers, the gasps when a billionaire bowed before me, I don't feel bitterness. I feel closure. Because in that single moment, they finally understood what I had known all along. I was never the girl who came alone. I was the woman who carried everything she needed within her.